welcome back to Face It with Dr. G. I'm Dr. G, and I have the absolute honor and pleasure of having Terri Ross on the podcast today. We are so excited to have her. Not only is she a dear friend of mine, but she is an entrepreneur extraordinaire who is an author, speaker, owner and founder of Terri Ross Consulting. She's been in the aesthetics industry for years and years and years. And if you haven't heard her speak, she speaks on stage all over the country all the time. And we're going to dive into that and more. I'm so happy to have you.
Oh my God. Hey, Gretchen, Dr. G. I know, look, we've been talking about this for so long. So thank you so much for having me. And look, again, you are just another a boss woman out there trying to make it happen with all your expansion. So I'm really honored to be here. And for all the people listening, thank you guys for tuning in.
Yeah. So I think I'm just going to shoot from the hip with the
Yeah.
first question. I think everyone wants to know, how do you do it with all the travel every other day all over the country and world? How do you do it?
Yeah, no. And look, you and I have, thank you for the question. And you and I have talked about this with you having your three kids and how many bit practices do you have now? What are you on? You're opening your,
We just opened our third location.
congratulations. Look, many of you guys know Sloan, my daughter Sloan, she just turned 12. I'm not gonna lie. Look, I'm not gonna lie. It's not easy and it's not what it's cracked up to be. I know you and I have had this conversation many times. What you see on the outside, it's rough. Like it's a bitch, honestly. But on the same token, it's like that is my zone of genius. What feeds my soul. It's my passion to inform and educate, and the only way to do that is at these society meetings. And so, I think anybody that says work-life balance, there is no such thing. I think it's finding. In fact, my God, I'm going to grab this book here. Buy back your time, okay? If you haven't read the book, it's legit. And so I think it's really putting your efforts, the things that move the needle and the things that are passionate for
Yeah.
me. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. And there's different phases of your life where you have to give and take in a different way. And
Mhm.
sometimes it calls for more travel, sometimes it calls for head down, pencils up, let's work on the company and
Yeah.
be local. But each phase of our lives and our companies require a different us,
Yeah,
and for
absolutely.
lack of
Hmm.
better terms. But so tell us about how you started. You now have Terri Ross Consulting, which is a huge, huge, huge passion of yours. You are so passionate
Hmm.
about all of it when you get on stage. But how did that start? Walk us
Yeah.
through your journey from the beginning, because you've been in the field for a long time.
Yeah. No, thank you. And probably much like you, I'm very prideful of the story. I even did my 100th podcast about my journey because it was a long journey. I went to medical school, but I preferred the business side. And I'm from Michigan, right? From Detroit, suburbs of Detroit. And I got my first sales job at Ethicon Endo, which is a division of J&J in oncology. And then I basically spent 16 years of my life in Fortune 500 working in oncology, endocrinology, cardiology, like every dermatology, um, in capital equipment, in the OR, in biotech. So I've done it all, which is where when people talk about sales training and aesthetics, like I've spent my whole life, right, studying psychology, why people buy things. I've done the corporate side, and then I uh, I did 2 rounds of fertility to have Sloan, and I was older. I was in my 40s, early. Gee, I'm aging myself. But I quit my corporate life, and I kind of didn't know. I lost myself, to be honest. Like I was, I wouldn't say full on depression, but I didn't. My identity was my corporate life, um, and uh, and by the way, I got into aesthetics in 2007. So I moved from Michigan to Los Angeles in 2002. I was traveling. I had 20 states with this company in Boston, this endocrinology, doing human growth hormone for kids with short stature. Um, and I had 20 states. And I just was never home. And I'm divorced. I'm remarried, but my husband at the time was like, "This just isn't like ideal for the family." So, did the fertility. Sloan's my miracle baby, and there was a job with Medicis. So I worked at Medicis in 2007. I was the West Coast director when they were launching Dysport and Perlane and all that stuff. And then I got recruited to Zeltiq pre-IPO when Cool Sculpting was being launched. So that was my stint in aesthetics. And then I quit. And Paul Nassif, everyone knows Paul, was Garth Fisher, like some Mark Rubin, some big heavy hitters in Beverly Hills were like, hey, can you help me like start my men's spa? And I knew them from the corporate side, selling them stuff. So I was like, well, shit, I'm scrappy. I'm never going to say no. And so I did. I started Terri Ross Consulting on a whim. I didn't know what it would be or what I would do in 2012. And I worked for Paul and David Amron in Beverly Hills and basically helped them build their med spa. I did it with Garth Fisher too. And I started to sit down in the first AM spa. I swear to God, it was like 8 people in Los Angeles in a tiny little room with Nelson Hardiman Law Firm. It was crazy. But the point is, as this, I'm telling you this, is like, I had to learn too. I had to sit with AM spa, figure it out, sit with lawyers, like understand, like, how does it even work? And then I got to see how derms, cosmetic derms, like yourself, right? Or even medical derms were not crossing over patients. I got to see how plastic surgeons were treating it like I'm just surgery and then, oh, there's this med spa. And I'm like, this doesn't make any sense, not from a scalability of a business wise. So I hired a coach. I've always invested in myself too. I hired a business coach from London. She sold her company to Bill Gates, completely out of the field, but just a business lady. And I owe a lot to her. And we wrote my first sales training curriculum in like 2017. And so that's really how I got started. I was helping practices in Beverly Hills. And then at the time, these 3 surgeons in a derm were like, hey, we have this underperforming med spa in Beverly Hills. And it was underwater about $500,000. 2 facial plastics, a general plastic, and a derm. And they're like, we don't know what we're doing. Can you just take it over? We'll make you a partner. See what happens? I'm going to shut the window. I'm back. Sorry. We're going to make you a partner. And if you could just handle it. And I was like, well, shit, I'm never going to, right? I mean, I have to, take care of my family. So I did. And I'm basically summing it up. And, that's when I learned, again, sales techniques and software in Beverly Hills, like one of the most competitive markets in the country. In a 3-mile radius, there were 350 people at the time, all doing the same shit. So the stuff that I do and teach today, and I'm on stage and I'm lecturing, like I am proud that I've walked the walk, I've talked the talk. I didn't read a book and I'm on stage pretending I know what to do. I've done it all. I've made all the mistakes, but I've had to learn the hard way to hustle and scaled that. And it sold to Skin Spirit, which was great. And then I kind of went back on my own, which is what I've been doing now for, God, almost 20 years.
Wow. So I have a question. When you say the initial kind of that practice reached out to you initially and said, help me build the
Yeah.
med spa. What did that mean? I mean, you were obviously teaching yourself a ton. You dove in and you were like, I'm going to figure this out. How did you do that? And what did it mean? What did it mean to grow it? Was it to hire the people? Was it to put in systems? What was it?
Thank you for asking, because I think, and I say everything you guys say, everybody that knows me, probably you, what you see is what you get. I don't bullshit. I don't sugarcoat stuff. Like there's just a lot of noise in the space and there's too much room for error. I think people think it's really easy to get in this space and you know how it's growing so rapidly. I busted my ass. Like I think it's hard. My success came a lot from my corporate side of business. So I learned how to manage team, hire team, train team, lead, reporting, data, analytics. Like that was my success. And then I was a fucking hunter, excuse me. I mean, like I was scrappy in my corporate life. And I think it allowed me, and then seeing, I had Beverly Hills territory with Medicis, right? Again, at the time, that territory was ranked at the bottom 10 of 10. And I'm like, oh, this is Beverly Hills. Why is it so bad? So I got to walk in the practices and observe it from a corporate perspective. I didn't know what right? I didn't know the trenches of like the day-to-day med spa, plastic surgery. I didn't know that. I knew how to run business. So I came in from that regard. I'm probably a bit naive, which is why I sat with AmSpa and I would go learn, and I started to go to all the society meetings and listen. But at least I could get in the software and I could run data. I could run analytics. I knew enough to be dangerous on what should sell, what shouldn't, what procedures somebody was doing, why are they doing these procedures, what makes money. I didn't know the benchmarks at the time, but that's what I did. And then from there, so when they hired me, I was a consultant. They hired me to write a business plan to say, is this salvageable and where are the areas of opportunity or where are the leaks in the business? Then I could figure out the leaks and challenge the process. Why are you doing this? Why is she in the room doing that? Why is she taking so long doing this? And I started to just work with the companies to really get an understanding of, and then having sold it, I could understand efficiencies, time, turnover, profitability, looking at data. I could do that. So that's, Gretchen, I mean, at high level, that's what I was able to do while I was learning the space. Wow. To say, okay, this works, this doesn't work, and challenge the process to fix it.
Yeah. You have to ask questions in order to change anything, and you have to look at the numbers and pull the data. Don't you think that's one of the biggest, so I get asked a lot, how did you scale? How did you grow? How do you have 3 locations? How do you do it? And you have to have an incredible team around you, but you also have to have the data and the systems in place so that when you scale, everything doesn't fall apart. Yeah. Do you help practices with that? Do you get asked that question all the time?
Yeah, I think, and I have some questions to you too, because again, I have utmost respect for people like you too. No, but with a family, with 3 kids, running 3 locations, running team, trying to be a provider and a CEO. And it's very difficult to do. And your success is admirable, and you're the kinds of clients, because I think I'm going to answer it in 2 ways, because people would still say, Terri, how do you scale an $8 million practice? It's the same way, right? Some of my best clients are KOLs like you, where I'm like, that have wanted to sell to private equity. If I could add another million or 2 to the bottom line, are you going to tell me, no, I don't want any help? Of course, that would be ridiculous if you said that. So I think what people need to understand, because some people will say, I have no shortage of business or leads. The problem I feel is challenging is that they know something's wrong. They don't know exactly what or how to fix it, but yet they'll think I'm expensive. I'm like, I could make your phone ring 1 time if you're a surgeon, right? To pay for the investment, or on a med spa, call it 5 times. And I think that people undervalue training. They undervalue team. They undervalue the data, and or thinking that working with an expert, right, is an expense. And so that is what we do. We audit every business, and everyone on my team, we all probably combined have 100 years of experience. So that's what we do. We audit a business and write a formal business report, identify those opportunities, and then work with clients on how to fix it, basically. Mm-hmm.
It's incredible. Yeah. And as I've mentioned a lot on this podcast recently, from the business side, it's very rare that you have somebody in medicine that knows business, or at least wants to get to know it and learn it and understand it and love it. And that's something that I've always loved, and I've grown to love it even more. I do more of the business side now than I do the clinical injecting, because I have 8 injectors that are rock star. Yeah. But when you say people don't want more training, what kind of training do you mean? Do you mean clinical training, or do you mean the business training?
No, and look, and I applaud business, right? I'm not, you look, like you said, you have what, 9, you said 9 injectors. I applaud any company that hires the best and trains them. But think about it, even you, right? How much time and effort and money do you spend, even for yourself, to learn new techniques, right? New procedures, new equipment, new products. And then I guarantee and I'll ask you, isn't that your expectation of your team? On the clinical side, it is, right?
To do those treatments and
or like to really continue to enhance their clinical skills, right? You want the best team to provide to get the best care. Why, and I say it often, why is there such a lack of business acumen training? It's sad. It's like, so you could be the best, and you are one of the best, and your team could be too, but not if the business is lacking, if the infrastructure is cracked, right? If we're spending money in marketing, and this is what I say, to get the phone ring, and then those girls can't convert, that's a problem, right? Or then someone comes into the treatment room, but they're not good at the consultation. Or maybe they're great, but the revenue per hour is low. Like, I can put the pieces of the puzzle together and say, well, wait a minute, you think he or she is great. What if they could be better? And so I think that, as you know, in medical school, there's no business training, whether you're an extender or whatever that is. The industry lacks. I think, we're at the same conferences, traveling all around the world speaking. The problem is, I'm very bold in this statement, they have people on stage for 15 minutes, 15 minutes, 15 minutes. I'm fortunate that sometimes I get a couple hours, but it's the execution, right? You are probably an anomaly, like feeling like as an owner, scaling to 3 practices, making sure you do understand the business side. Because how would I respect you if you don't know how to do it too?
Well, that was my next question. Is my issue recently in the aesthetic space is that the people that actually know how to run companies aren't the ones that are taking time away from their companies to go speak on stage. And so I think we don't have access to enough of these people that built companies. And it's not even that we need people on stage that are just in aesthetics. Let's think outside of the box here.
100%.
Building a company is a system of systems, and a
Yes.
company is a company. And I actually think I've learned more from reading and listening to podcasts and talking to people that have built other types
Yes.
of companies to implement them into mine. So let's think outside the box. And now I know there's a lot of business talk about aesthetics and all that, but it doesn't have to be
Agreed.
just purely aesthetics. And I think the business advice, you are very special and unique because you are the epitome of what everyone should learn from.
Thank you.
A lot of the other speakers either don't have good companies, don't have a company at all, or have a failed company that, and so why do I want to get information from you?
Right. No, I know. I don't. And yeah, look, but like you said with your crowd, like I wouldn't go get heart surgery from an orthopedic surgeon kind of thing, right? And that's the kind of bullshit, right? That is happening. And again, to each his own of who people are, working with. But you're right. Like, we all want experts in a field. There's coaches for a reason. There's physicians like you with specialty for a reason. And let's just make sure the reason makes sense, right? And that, the due diligence is done on both sides, where, like you said, as a business owner, an entrepreneur, and if you're a provider owner, it's hard, right? There's a lot of stuff to do, but a lot of mistakes to be made that keep being made, which is why the industry benchmarks are so low.
Right. I read, have you heard of, I forget the title of the book, it's escaping my mind right now, but Ron Shaich, who's the founder of Panera and
Yes.
and how he started and how he decided to do things in a totally unconventional and unreasonable way. Had half of the Paneras as franchises, half of them privately owned. People don't do that, right?
Yeah.
But I have listened to so many books like that and incorporated those principles into my company to help. And I think people should do that as well, because it not only fuels your mind, in the interim between when they have meetings with you, et cetera, and can go through this, but it fuels those questions that, I could potentially ask you.
Yeah.
Why did I do this in my company? Or what do you think about this? And everyone learns and grows from it. What would you say is the biggest mistake that most practices make right out of the gate? And how have you prevented that for a lot of people?
Hands down, we've collected the data. I work a lot with QSight, which is the analytics company in New York. Hands down, the business mistakes are that people don't invest in working with someone to understand the business of aesthetics. You're right. I agree with you that there are other types of coaches or experts out there, right? Like Dan Martell or whoever, doesn't matter. There's a million out there because business is business. But when you start getting into the specifics of aesthetics, it's difficult. It cannot be some Joe Schmo that sold, telephones, right, to come in and help a business scale in aesthetics. But that is it. The team is not trained. So there's expectations of someone in the front as a provider in the room, a manager, but they don't even know. And it's not about here's a job description. They don't know what they're supposed to do. Then they don't know what KPIs they're held accountable for. And then there's no goals. I don't mean goals like people pull it out of their ass. Like, how is there a real forecast, a budget, a pro forma? That is hands down. That is the biggest mistake. People think they can do it on their own. They're on these Facebook groups. They're listening and hearing and getting advice from colleagues, which is fine, right? But does it make sense for your business? And so I was going to ask you, like, I mean, you are a young hustler with 3 locations. You said the team. No, but you weren't always like that. It didn't begin that way. What have you done? I think your story is equally, incredible to share, but what have you recognized where you either made mistakes or now why you're able to have 3 locations? Like, because someone like you could say to me, well, I don't have time. Well, what's your business worth, right? How do you make time to work on the business? So how have you shifted your sort of maybe mentality from getting out of the provider room all the time, 24/7, making money, to now CEO hat, which has allowed you to scale?
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways. I mean, it started by knowing what my end goal was and working backwards. And my end goal was always to transfer my patients to my amazing providers and instill trust in my patients that my team
Yeah.
is trained by me and they're incredible, they're better than I am, which is the
Yeah.
truth. And slowly do that, knowing that the revenue will probably stay flat or dip a little bit. That's okay. Plan for
Mhm.
that. But then my problem was there was a time in my company where at a year I would lose a lot of injectors. And I was like,
Mhm.
what is
Yeah.
happening? I need to analyze this. And then it would have to all start over again. So I started
Yeah.
working more, then we'd have to do it again. So that was one thing, was delegation of, transfer of my
I love
patients,
that.
which is not easy.
Mhm.
The other thing was I was always a control freak and a perfectionist and needed to control everything. I thought in my mind I did things faster than everyone else and
Yeah.
better than everyone else.
Touche.
And that was absolutely not the case. And a unplanned, relatively serious burnout on my behalf
Mm.
didn't render me incapable, but I mean, I couldn't function.
Yeah.
I couldn't think, I couldn't do anything. And that was a forced way to delegate at
Mm.
that time. And then I was like, oh,
Wow.
and obviously you have to have the correct people in place. So people are another part of the puzzle
Yeah.
that allows scaling and me stepping back. But it was that delegation that made me realize, well, actually, Gretchen, your way is not always the best way.
Yeah.
It's not always the fastest way. And why are you doing this when your purpose in life is to empower others and
Mhm.
create people, system structures? That's what you want to do. So,
Mhm.
and below all of that was trust. I had to make
Yeah.
sure I had people that I had trust in and that I knew were brilliant and were going to get the job done. So a lot of those things, they didn't all come together at the same time, but those are pieces of it. And now we have this absolutely incredible team that is beyond brilliant,
Yeah.
smarter than I am. And we've created a whole structure. We have an MSO structure, but within the
Yeah.
company now it's director of operations and chief growth
Mhm.
officer
Yeah.
and, head of client relations
Yeah.
and weekly team meetings with
I love it.
many different divisions, weekly team meetings with all of the injectors to get their,
Yeah.
their calendars booked. Everyone has different measurables. And monthly financial meetings for
Mhm.
potential bonuses with transparency of revenue they
Yeah.
bring into the practice. So all of these
Love that.
systems allow for uh, structure and for your team to feel safe,
Mhm.
taken care of, seen,
Yeah.
appreciated, and confident.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
that's how I have been able to step back because I'm never the go-to anymore.
Yeah.
They know exactly the org chart, they know the flow of communication, they know who to go to for what because they
Mhm.
do know now if they come to me and they ask me a question, what's my answer going to be?
Go,
I don't know.
I don't know, right? Go talk to the person.
So
Yeah.
you become the ultimate leader by delegating and empowering and then being vulnerable and saying, I actually don't know the answer to that.
Yeah.
Go to
Yeah.
this person, right?
Yeah.
But
Thank you for
also on the
sharing
flip
though. But
side
I
is
think,
knowing that I'm there, right? They
yeah.
know I'm there. They know they can
Mhm.
come talk to me anytime, text me anytime, but they know I probably won't have the answer for a reason.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think, thank you for sharing with me. We've talked about that before, but I think for everyone listening, because you're right. It's easy to think that, it's all shiny and pretty on the outside when it's not always that way internally, personally, and professionally.
Yeah.
And the burnout thing is real. And all the things that you shared about, hitting a bottom point in your life where you didn't have a choice, but now look what you've built, so that you can spend more time with your kids, and right, or whatever that is. But yeah, you know that your company is in good hands, and your patients are being taken care of. And I think, God, thank you. Like, you're right. And I echo that. But in order for you to do that, because people could say, listening, I don't know, I don't have the money. I don't right to hire all these division heads. But in an effort for you to do that, you equally, Gretchen, have had to then invest in training, right? To learn, right? You've had to learn to do this. It wasn't just like you know what I mean? And so, how important do you think, same as you asked me, right? What's the gap in the space? What have you found with your colleagues that probably come to you and are like, how do you do this? And how do you, right? What do you share with them?
I share everything with them. I mean, I have a business mentorship, and I use, my struggles and my failures to help them get through things. But it's not like a magic answer or ticket that gets you to a certain place. It's a bunch of different pieces that have come together. And so by sharing my story, different parts of it resonate with different people.
Yeah.
And I think I'm an extremely confident optimist. And it's really about the mindset of the leader, not only for your own sanity, because I believe in GFACE MD so much, I won't let it fail, right?
Yeah.
I will not let it fail, whatever that means.
Yeah.
And I also don't pay myself a lot of money. I reinvest
Same.
everything back into the company. I empower my leaders more,
Yeah.
incentivize them, which, financially, that's not always a motivator for people.
Right.
You don't want people just to be with you because they're getting a raise or whatever it is. That's a cultural problem.
Yeah. Right.
But I think that's another problem with the aesthetic industry is the glitz and the glam and the nonsense that is portrayed on social media
Yes.
when people are trying to start a company from scratch, and they're like, how are these people doing all of these
Yeah.
glitz and glam nonsense? Because the cost to you as a business owner, especially when starting out, are so high. Yeah, you can bring in revenue, but then you get your bills. And if you
Right.
do, the 90-day terms,
Yeah.
you're not getting
Still got to pay the money. Yeah.
fourth month on the credit card, and you're like,
Right.
whoa, I actually didn't
Right.
make as much money as I thought I
Yes.
did. I think that's one of the hardest things when you're starting is really truly keeping your costs low, but having enough in your practice to make you a player in the space. Why
Yeah.
would people want
100%.
to make you competitive?
Yeah.
And I always tell my people, your hands are your biggest asset. Your hands are
Yeah.
unique. Your mind is unique. A machine is not unique. And
Yeah.
your hands are cheap. They're free.
Yeah.
They're yours.
Yeah. Yes, they're your but I think you bring up a good point, and can say this coming from the space. And again, we love industry, we love our vendors, we love all that they can do and provide. 100%. Please don't take this the wrong way. However, to your point about the bill, the 90-day terms, and however people want to do it, but then the reps come in and they're like, "Hey, let's bulk load you," but then the pull through isn't there. So we didn't sell as much as we thought. And I think back to your question about the gap. People don't understand the cost of goods. Like, how are we really going to market this thing to be able to pay these bills versus, oh, I'm going to get this discount or this deal, or it's the end of the quarter. Like, that shit's not real. Look, some of it might be real, but what is the actual plan and training to do this so that you can run a sustainable, profitable business?
Right. And people get
Yeah.
lost in the weeds, whatever the phrase
Yeah.
is, because you forget that it's your company. And when
Right.
reps come in and they're, beating down your neck and just breathing down your neck with buy this, buy that, buy that. And you too, you get lost. You want to make
Yeah.
them happy. You want to help them
Yeah.
hit their goals. You want to feel seen and appreciated. But you forget it's your company, and you also forget that those products come usually overnight.
Right.
So I
Right.
know
Right.
the
Right.
cost is higher if you buy in smaller amounts. But if you buy a huge amount, makes your
Yes.
cash flow not work and low, and then
Right.
they expire because you haven't used
Yes,
them.
right.
There's all kinds of
Right. It's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. But these are things that, over time we didn't always know that. You didn't always know that. And so I think people coming into the space, and there's so many practices opening up every day. It's crazy. And to no disrespect, but right, a lot of non-cores coming in, a lot of people transitioning into this space. They think it's like
Especially
these
the functional medicine side.
huge, these easy add-ons. And I'm like, well, not so easy. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think just as a business owner, when you're starting out, it's getting someone like you on board right away to
Mhm.
just, I guess I give myself credit. 8 years ago when I opened GFace, I was like,
Yeah.
I didn't know who you were. Okay, so
Right.
that's my first. I didn't know who Terri Ross was. And so I'm like, well, I give myself a pass, but there's no excuse now to just
Yeah.
figure it out on your own. There's resources like you, which will save money and emotional mental turmoil and allow you to focus on what's right. And it's proven to work. What you do for
Yeah.
these people, it's
Yeah.
proven to work. And I know you do a lot of staff trainings. Tell me more about that.
Mhm.
How do you help
Yeah.
when you go into an office and do staff trainings?
Yeah. Thank you. I love it. Swear to God, my curriculum, where's my, I mean, the binder, it's, oh my God. I mean, it's truly, it's like going back to college. So I think I'm on my, I don't even know, fifth iteration of it. I do a ton of work. I'm heading to Jersey on Thursday to train VO, which I think they have 69 locations. I do a ton of work with private equity, a lot of work with corporations too. The training is the most important because if we think about the roles within the practice, every role is indicative of the growth of of an organization, right? So whether it's front desk, patient concierge, whatever title, patient care coordinators, managers, providers, owners, there are KPIs held to each role. One, the industry doesn't know what those KPIs are. That's one of the problems that we help teach. Two is every software. It's probably not a day goes by I don't get asked, what do I write? What software? What tech stack? Well, it's a loaded question because it's garbage in, garbage out. They're all great, but they're all shit too, right? It just depends on how well you know how to use it and how well the information is put in. And so on the sales training side specifically, which again is my zone of genius. Now I'm like you. I haven't taken on private clients in 5 years. My team is better than me, right? Trained by me. They do that. But I do still travel across the world to do that. And so if I come on site, it's a day and a half. We shut the practice down, and we hardcore train. And it's the curriculum is by role, but it is a holistic training. So that we are learning again how to speed to lead, how do we qualify, handle objections, credential the practice, the provider, ask the right questions so that the people in your seat are not wasting your time. And then we look at from the consultation process. And this happened when I back in the day, back in 2012, 13, was consulting, recognizing that maximizing revenue potential in the room is hard because providers don't want to feel salesy. But if I come in and see you for fine lines and wrinkles, I probably need multiple things. How do I change the mindset of a provider that sales is a transfer of emotion, right? How badly does a patient feel? Because it's the feeling that is going to allow me to purchase what you recommend for me. The problem is people don't know how to do it. They don't know how to do it where it doesn't feel salesy. So I mean, it's like you said, thank you. It's a proven method. Practices have grown multi millions of dollars with working with us. And it's the greatest investment because now the team can never say they don't know. It's the accountability piece and the execution piece that's hard, right? So when I leave, what happens? Can that practice manager pull it through? When you, to your point, when you're having these weekly meetings or these morning huddles, are we looking at the KPIs? Are we looking at revenue per hour? Are we looking at gross profit? Are we looking at all those retention, average spend, because data is one thing, but data without the training doesn't work, or vice versa. So that's what and then I can do it virtually as well. A little bit less impactful, but I can reach more people. And, I'm working on something huge that I kind of really can't say right now. Hopefully in the next 2 to 3 months, it should be out. But that's how the training works. Yeah. And I think that's where it provides that level of, to your point, confidence, competence, the why behind the reason your job exists and why does it matter, and then what you need to do to be a productive team member driving revenue and accountability for the practice and the patients.
Yeah. I think it comes down to 3 C's that I like to reference, and it's clarity, confidence, and communication. And I
Yeah.
think communication is one of the main bullet points here and arguably the most
Mm-hmm.
important one
Mm-hmm.
because, well, and confidence, but communication,
Yeah.
communication with your
Yeah.
team, communication with yourself, communication with your
Yeah.
patients. And we actually do a communication training. We have it tomorrow.
Oh, I love
And
it.
it's collaborative, but it's little things that come very naturally to me. Uh, don't come as naturally to the rest of the team. And
Yeah.
that's why I like to have them in the room with me. But as we get busier and busier, it's not as easy. They have their own patients, they have a lot going on. So just little tiny phrases about how to phrase things to patients to increase
Yeah.
the provider's confidence and the patient's confidence in the entire treatment. And we go through complicated cases, we go through
Yeah.
complicated
I love
phone
it.
calls, we go through all kinds of things, setting
Yeah.
expectations. How do you communicate expectations to your patients?
Yeah.
Because within the first couple seconds, your patients will feel, whether they're welcome or not in the room, and they'll
Mm-hmm.
feel as though you're confident or they'll feel your lack of
Mm-hmm.
confidence. And it could even come
Yeah.
from eye contact.
Yeah.
So we go through all of
Yeah.
that, eye contact, body language,
Yeah.
everything. And it's so
Yeah.
exciting. They like can't wait for it tomorrow. And so I'm
But I
so
love
excited.
that. But even just hearing you talk about it gets me excited because that
Yeah.
is the stuff that breeds successful practices, right? But where everybody's involved, it's not they're excluded or right? Where you're building this culture of confidence, but like, and this is what I say, like as an owner, that must make you feel so freaking good that like you have these meetings that people actually want to be in and they're not like, oh,
Oh, they
Dr.
can't
G's
wait.
making me
I
go.
think.
Like they can't.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, right. But then you're giving back to them too. Like, and I think that people often lose sight. Like, why do I want to show up for work every day? If I know my boss is right, you investing back in me, my success, how exciting is that? Yeah.
Yeah, and we do that every single day. But what I also
Love
realized
it.
is as I was growing this team, I almost like we almost hired well we did. We hired a ton of people just to be in one location in Wellesley to then send all
Yeah.
the little babies off to all the three locations now. And so we're not all together anymore, which is
Yeah.
sad, but
Yeah.
it's what the plan was. So how do we keep everyone together is to do these
Is
trainings
that what you
and
do though? That's a great point though. Do you bring everyone together? Like, is that what you do or
yeah.
how do you? Yeah, you
For
do.
this one,
Okay.
it'll be virtual. It'll be on Google Meet. But we do have
Okay.
times where it's, a group training, and
Yeah.
we do team meetings every week, and those are virtual. At least we can see each other. But the
Yeah.
other
Yeah.
thing is, when I'm running around to all these different locations, people don't get those touch points with me like they used
I
to.
know. Yeah.
And blessing and a curse, that's not happening as much. But they're surrounded by an incredible group of
Yeah.
people and injectors that they can learn from each other.
Mhm.
But I think they all get very excited when we have these meetings because they're like, okay, we're going to soak it all up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she's mine.
And then I'm sure to your point, your one location is different right? Demographic
Yeah.
wise than another location. So to be able to share those cross training situations is so equally important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I think it's a requirement. I mean,
Mhm.
I that just gave me an idea because I have my Patreon that I
Oh
do as
yeah.
well and have three channels for that, and I should put this communication training on the business one. Ooh, gave me an idea.
Yes, you
Um,
should, right? You should. Yeah.
just add it to the list. Add it to the
Yeah.
list. Um,
More to do.
and this could be personally or professionally.
Mhm.
What is the hardest thing you've had to overcome?
God, such a good question.
Or we can go to the next question.
No. I love the question. I'm maybe gonna take it back. Uh, I'm maybe gonna take it back to my corporate days because at the time, which has kind of led into like, and you'll appreciate my answer, but I remember getting hired at Medicis and I was the second female director ever. It was like an old boys club. And I remember at a meeting, somebody was like, oh, is that your boss? The blonde hair with the big boobs. And that shit just fuels my soul. You know what I mean? I'm like, shake my hand. You know what I mean? Like, and so I think that, and I don't know if you've felt this way, not, I've had to work harder and smarter in my life, which I love to do. I'm scrappy. I like, you know what I mean? I am a diehard for learning and reaching goals. And I think that was sort of a lesson, but I also think that it's what probably lends to your success and is lended to mine now, that there are a lot of people perhaps speaking on stages that shouldn't even be. They don't even have the credentials. They don't have the experience. They've never done it. They've never sold anything. They've never had a place. It's weird to me. It is. And I'm honest to say it. And so I'm prideful that what Terri Ross Consulting is about and the people that are on our team have done it, have been there, have lived the trenches, and right can prove a successful model.
Yeah. I think
mean,
it's really hard in aesthetics, going back to what you were saying about appearance, because we are in aesthetics and it's
yeah,
very appearance focused.
yes, yeah,
And I will say I have learned so many things over the years, and you can't make everyone happy.
yeah,
And you only truly know who you are as a
hmm
person. My life in aesthetics has been, it's been 8 years of G phase. How old am I?
yeah,
42.
yeah,
No one knows who I am truly. They see me at a
yeah,
conference, they see me speaking on stage. Yeah, you can listen to the podcast. Yes, I have friends. That friend group
yeah,
is so close and tight and small now, because people will assume things about you, or they'll say this or that. That is life.
a
But if
hundred
you get
percent.
bogged down with that and you get bogged down by what people say and comment on your appearance, that happened a long time ago, right? And so now
Yeah,
you've
yeah,
created an
hmm
outer shell of that'll bounce right off.
oh yeah,
Just-
hmm
You don't even know who I am.
yeah,
And I think it's just part of life and learning
hmm
and understanding who you want to associate with,
yeah,
understanding I'm going to stay in my own lane.
hmm
I'm going to teach people if they want to
yeah,
learn,
yeah,
and that's it. And so I've really
mhm,
cut back on conferences. I have my own that I love that is wholly,
yeah,
fully education. It's none of this
yeah,
playfulness, which I love to have a good time. But at the end of the day, if you're not around people that want you to be successful
hmm
and care about you, then at this point in my life, there's no point. But for you, you're there all the time because you're growing your company. Like that
yeah,
is your work, is
yeah,
being on those stages. Mine is not.
yeah.
So
Well, I think it's to what we said earlier, but now it's like I've earned my stripes. So it's almost been 20
right.
years, and I don't need. I love to do it, but it is now the balance where I need to do it differently and show up differently, right? Where, um, and again, you and I share the same sentiment that my sole desire is just to give back and educate. And then what would come of that, if you want to work with me, great. If you right, if we're a good fit. And if you're not, that's great too, you know?
Yeah, you're
you
not
know, and
everyone's cup
I
of tea. That's okay.
no. Yeah, yeah. And that's all we can do
Not
is
every
just
client
really
is your cup of tea either. I mean, it's
what
not
no.
one-sided. So,
Yeah, yeah. And I same with you. I'm like, look, you're you know you're interviewing your patients the same as I'm interviewing clients, right? Are we going to be a good fit, right?
yeah.
Because it's hard work. People like you said, I'm like, there's no fairy dust I can sprinkle on the business and hope it's successful, right? it's it's hard work. And think about what's happening to the industry. And I don't know if you know this. I released a podcast a couple weeks ago, but I sit on a task force for
Mm,
accreditation with Quad A for med
okay.
spas. You know, it's been the wild, wild west. And this is real shit. People are dying. And the consumers sadly don't understand, right? What is the difference between a board certified, and I hate to even use that loosely, but these random places opening up and you know, horrible things are happening. So I think we all have to just pay attention a little bit more to the space and really figure out where you know where someone plays, what's your narrative, what's your value proposition, how are you going to stand out. And I'm not here to judge. Someone can be the high volume low, you know, low ticket item. I don't know how far you're going to get, but teach his own.
Well, isn't it what you always say on stage? It'd be about being the Chanel. I mean, Chanel doesn't give away buy one,
Yeah.
get one free, and come in and buy this bag, you'll get a couple little trinkets for free. I mean, it just doesn't work that way.
I know, but it sadly, and I say this because it's unfortunate, right? There's a book I talk about a lot. You don't need the book, but it's called "Someone Needs to Be the Most Expensive. Why Not Let It Be You?"
Oh, I
And
saw them on your somewhere you
if people
posted.
haven't read it, you got to read it because it does and you said it earlier. This business, it is just a mindset, right? People will pay all the money right? They will pay for the value. And I think people get confused with cost and, right, and budget and value. And we can't run, it's just a race to the bottom. So, and that's one thing we teach a lot. Like, why does someone have that philosophy? It's still medicine. Yeah.
Yeah, it's still medicine. And the only way you can really gain confidence, in my opinion, enough that you feel like you can have a certain price is by asking your patients, why do
Mm.
you come here? The whole
Yeah.
net promoter
Yes.
system, promoters,
Yes.
passive
Score. Yeah.
detractors. Ask your patients why they come. Send out surveys. Do whatever it takes to get feedback so
Hmm.
you can implement those and say, this is why we're good at what we do, and strengthen
Yeah.
those skills in your providers. So I think it's important to always assess your pricing structure
Hmm.
each 6 months or even more regularly. And yes, people will pay, but they also want an experience and
A
want
hundred
results that
percent.
you
Yes.
deliver.
Yeah. But
It's not
even
just the
even
results,
even
it's
bringing
how.
up that, it's so silly that how many people don't do that though. Like this business isn't hard. I'm not saying it's not hard. You've built 3 locations, but it doesn't have to be hard. Let's put it that way. It doesn't have to be hard if you actually invested time and money that will save you time and money to do it right in the
Yep.
beginning, not make a bunch of mistakes and then wonder why it didn't really work out like 5 years later. You know, and that calling us for help or they're on our mentorship and begging for help.
Yeah. I have one other question. I can't believe it's almost been an hour.
Yeah,
I knew time was
I know.
flying
I
with
love
you.
this. We could literally talk for hours. I know.
I know, I know. So for your services that you offer, do you have things like bookkeepers and CPAs and controllers, or do you set what do you offer, I guess,
Yeah,
so people.
yeah. No, thank you. So under the TRC umbrella, I would say that we are like the nucleus. Like we are the business. We are your business consultants. Okay. Um, that are identifying that, right? Doing the audit, identifying the opportunities, and working with you one on one. So we offer private consulting, okay? Minimum 6 or 12 months. People have been with us for 5, 10 years, literally, right? Because we'll manage the financials every month. Um, so it's private consulting or sales training, okay? Which is also included in the 12-month engagement, but they can hire me just to retain us to do that, or we'll do the audit. And then on the very basic level, we have my mentorship program as well, which I wanted to give back for people who are not ready but need the support and need the community. Now, within it, so then we have our vetted partners. So we can still do a pro forma, a business plan, feasibility. We'll do TRC, will do that. But if people need a website, a branding company, a CPA, those things are outsourced. We do not offer that, but it's within our umbrella of people we work with so that we can ensure clients are getting the best, not hiring the person down the street who, you know what I mean, built a website for freaking lawyers. Like it's weird. And this is where when people work with us, the sad part is they've tried to do it on their own and they've went and hired all the wrong people, spent so much money, and we try to, cut costs and increase revenue.
Yeah, and then they say hallelujah. Your client is on
Hallelujah.
my life.
Thank you so
And
much,
they make
right?
everything
With your
easier.
friend.
Better late than never. Let's be that
Yeah,
optimist and say,
right?
where have you been all my life?
Yes. Well, I remember, this is cute. God, I
Yeah,
don't even know how long ago did you and I meet, but we were literally, it was either Taz or VCS,
yeah,
right? At the Win, passing each other. And we're like,
yeah,
we both were literally like, Gretchen, Terry, oh
yeah,
my God,
yeah.
hugging. And it was
Oh,
like,
how was that?
love at first
I
sight.
just,
It was at the Win. It was at the Win,
yeah.
but I don't know if it, I mean, it seems like forever ago, but I remember.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh, I remember that moment. Uh, and it was so special because we're so
it
similar in
was
so many
special. It
ways.
was. It was.
Yeah.
But thank you so
Um,
much for like this conversation, for your authenticity and vulnerability. And I knew that this was what this podcast would be for us. And I appreciate you allowing me to share my story, tell the story, talk about how we can help people. And I just, together, I think we do such great work. So thank you for everybody tuning in and listening.
yeah. Tell everyone where they can find you, your social media
Yes,
handle,
of course, guys. So of course, yes, if you're struggling, suffering, or you're in a great place and want to scale to sell, you can reach out to Terri Ross Consulting, which is my Instagram handle or the website. And I would love to hear from you guys. So thank you for that. And yes, can't wait to hear from you guys.
Good. Thank you so much for
Thanks.
sharing all your pearls, for being so just amazing inside and out. And for all of you watching, like, share, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Gretchen. Thanks, guys.